Let's be honest, Helen, Tyler Brennan said, leaning back in his leather chair with that smug smile I'd grown to despise. Women your age just can't keep up with where this industry's headed. Technology moves fast, and frankly, I need people who can adapt. I sat there, my hands folded neatly in my lap, watching this 32-year-old boy who'd never worked a day outside his father's company tell me I was obsolete. 20 years. 20 years I'd given to Nexora Labs, building their operations from the ground up, training every new hire, managing every crisis. And now he was dismissing me like I was some outdated equipment. I completely understand, I said calmly, forcing that practiced smile I'd perfected over decades of dealing with difficult clients. Inside, my heart was pounding, but my voice remained steady. You have to do what you think is best for the company. Tyler's eyebrows shot up slightly. He'd clearly expected an argument, maybe tears. Instead, he got composed agreement from a 56-year-old woman who'd seen enough corporate politics to know when a battle was worth fighting. Well, that's refreshing, he said, shuffling through papers on his desk. I was prepared for this to be more difficult. Most people don't take termination so well. I'm not most people, I replied, standing up and smoothing my navy blazer. When would you like me to finish up my current projects? End of the week should be fine. Human resources will handle the paperwork. He was already looking at his computer screen, dismissing me from his attention as easily as he'd dismissed me from my job. I walked out of his corner office, past the glass walls that gave him a view of the entire operations floor. The floor I'd designed, optimized, and managed for 2 decades. The irony wasn't lost on me that he was firing the person who'd created the very systems that made his family's company profitable. My name is Helen McRae, and until 5 minutes ago, I was the operations director at Nexora Labs, a tech distribution company here in Indianapolis. I'd started as a logistics coordinator when the company was just 12 employees cramped into a rented warehouse. Now we employed over 200 people and moved millions of dollars worth of equipment every month. I'd built the shipping protocols, designed the inventory management system, and personally trained most of the department heads. But Tyler didn't see any of that. He saw a middle-aged woman who didn't fit his vision of a modern, dynamic company. What he didn't know was that his smart business decision was about to become his worst nightmare. I'd seen this coming for months. Ever since Robert Brennan started handing more responsibility to his son, Tyler had been making changes, most of them poorly thought out. He'd hired a bunch of recent graduates with impressive degrees, but no practical experience, convinced that youth automatically meant innovation. The truth was, I'd been quietly consulting with Veltrix Optics for the past 6 months. James Morrison, their operations vice president, had been trying to recruit me for 3 years. Every time Nexora Labs landed a major contract or streamlined a process that impressed the industry, James would call. Helen, we need someone with your expertise, he'd say. Name your price. I'd always declined, loyal to Robert Brennan, who'd given me my first real opportunity in logistics. But loyalty was a two-way street, and watching his son systematically disrespect the people who'd built the company was wearing my patience thin. The morning of my termination, I'd already been scheduled to have lunch with James. What Tyler intended as my farewell meeting had just become my final interview. You're free, James said, grinning as we sat in the quiet corner booth at Romano's downtown. When can you start? Monday, I replied, surprising him. But there's something you should know. I designed every operational system at Nexora. The shipping routes, vendor relationships, inventory protocols, all of it runs through processes I created. James leaned forward, his expression sharpening. Are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying that Tyler Brennan just fired the only person who truly understands how his company operates. And I documented everything. I pulled out a thick folder from my briefcase. 20 years of process improvements, vendor contacts, and system specifications. All completely legal since I developed them, and there's no non-compete clause in my termination package. The irony was beautiful. Tyler had been so eager to get rid of me that he'd rushed through the paperwork. No retention bonus, no consulting agreement, no restrictions on where I could work. Just a standard severance package and a quick exit. "We've been trying to crack into Nexora's client base for years," James said, flipping through my documentation. "These shipping routes alone would save us millions in logistics costs. Their 3 biggest clients all have contracts coming up for renewal in the next 60 days, I mentioned casually, and I happen to know exactly what terms they've been discussing. James signaled the waiter for champagne. "Helen, I think this is going to be a very profitable partnership." I smiled, thinking about Tyler's smug expression just a few hours earlier. He had no idea what was coming. The rest of that week at Nexora was almost amusing. Tyler walked around the office with an air of self-satisfaction, clearly pleased with his difficult decision. He'd called an all-hands meeting Tuesday morning to announce organizational changes. "As we move forward in an increasingly competitive market," he announced to the assembled staff, "we need leadership that can adapt to technological advances and industry evolution. That's why we've made some strategic personnel changes." I watched from the back of the conference room as confused glances were exchanged. Most of these people had worked with me for years. They knew exactly what strategic personnel changes meant. "Helen McRae has decided to pursue other opportunities," Tyler continued, not even having the decency to acknowledge my presence. "We wish her well in her future endeavors." After the meeting, a steady stream of employees stopped by my office. Janine, my assistant operations manager, was the first. "This is insane," she whispered, closing my door. "Half our vendor contracts are in your name. The shipping software was your design. How does he expect us to manage without you?" "You'll figure it out," I said diplomatically, continuing to pack my personal items. Tyler seems confident in his new direction. What I didn't tell Janine was that I'd spent Monday and Tuesday meticulously documenting every password, every vendor contact, every process detail, and emailing it all to my personal account. Not theft, just backup documentation of my own work. After 20 years, I knew which systems would be the first to break down. By Wednesday, I'd already started consulting remotely for Veltrix Optics. James had arranged for me to begin immediately, and we were moving fast. Their legal team had reviewed everything, confirming that my termination package included no restrictions on sharing industry knowledge I'd developed independently. Thursday morning, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to Patricia Holmes at Westell Distribution, our biggest client. Patricia and I had worked together for 8 years, and she'd always made it clear that her loyalty was to me personally, not to Nexora Labs. "Helen, I heard rumors you were leaving," Patricia said when I called. "Please tell me it's not true." "I'm afraid it is." Tyler Brennan felt the company needed younger leadership. There was a long pause. "That boy has no idea what he's lost. You've saved us millions in efficiency improvements over the years." "Well, I'm joining Veltrix Optics now. If you ever want to explore alternatives to your current distribution arrangement, send me a proposal," Patricia said immediately. "Westell is always interested in working with professionals who understand our needs." The second call went to Gerald Perkins at Microsystems Corp. The third, to Andrea Sullivan at Tech Solutions Plus. Both conversations followed the same pattern. By Thursday afternoon, Tyler's strategic personnel change had just cost Nexora Labs their 3 largest clients, and he didn't even know it yet. Friday morning arrived with deceptive calm. I was scheduled to finish my last day at Nexora, cleaning out my office, and supposedly transferring my responsibilities to Tyler's new operations manager, a 28-year-old named Bradley Brown with an MBA and exactly 0 experience in logistics distribution. Tyler had hired Bradley straight from graduate school, convinced that fresh thinking would revolutionize their operations. What Tyler didn't understand was that logistics wasn't about revolutionary thinking. It was about relationships, experience, and understanding the 1,000 little details that kept complex systems running smoothly. I arrived early, as I always had, and found Bradley already at his desk, frantically scrolling through spreadsheets on his computer. "Good morning, Bradley," I said pleasantly. "How are you settling in?" He looked up, stress evident in his eyes. "Helen, thank goodness you're here. I've been trying to understand the shipping protocols, but nothing makes sense. The software seems to be crashing every time I try to generate a route optimization report." I nodded sympathetically. "The system can be temperamental. Did you update the vendor portal passwords? They reset automatically every 90 days. Vendor portal? Bradley looked confused. Tyler didn't mention anything about vendor portals. Oh. I paused, letting the implications sink in. Well, there are 17 different vendor systems that need to be synchronized for the routing software to work properly. Each has its own access credentials and update schedule. Bradley's face went pale. Could you walk me through it?" "I'd love to help," I said, glancing at my watch. "But I'm actually due at Human Resources in 10 minutes to finalize my departure paperwork. And then I have a lunch appointment." The truth was, my lunch was with Patricia Holmes from Westell Distribution, officially signing the contract that would transfer their account to Veltrix Optics. But Bradley didn't need to know that. I spent the next hour in HR, going through the standard exit interview process. When they asked if I had any concerns about the transition, I smiled politely and said that Tyler seemed very confident in his new direction. Just as I was gathering my final belongings, my desk phone rang one last time. "Helen McRae, Operations Director," I answered out of habit. "Helen, it's Gerald Perkins at Microsystems. I need to discuss our contract renewal." "Of course, Gerald. What can I help you with?" "Well, I got a very interesting call from Veltrix Optics this morning. They presented some compelling alternatives to our current arrangement. Before I make any decisions, I wanted to speak with you directly." I could see Tyler through his glass office wall, on a phone call of his own, gesturing animatedly. He looked pleased about something. "I appreciate that, Gerald. But as of today, I'm no longer with Nexora Labs. You'd need to speak with Tyler Brennan about any account concerns." "That's exactly what I was afraid of," Gerald sighed. "Helen, you've been our primary contact for 6 years. You know our needs, our timeline constraints, our budget parameters. Frankly, we're not comfortable working with anyone else." "I understand completely. Business relationships are built on trust and experience. Where are you going? Because wherever it is, Microsystems Corp would be very interested in following you there." I looked across the office at Tyler, who was still on his phone call, probably telling someone about his brilliant strategic decisions. "I'll be working with Veltrix Optics starting Monday," I said. "James Morrison is their operations vice president. Very professional organization." "Perfect. Have James call me Monday morning. We'll want to discuss transitioning our account." As I hung up, I noticed Tyler's phone call had ended. He was staring at his computer screen with a frown, clicking furiously at something that apparently wasn't working. The real fun was just beginning. Monday morning brought the first wave of panic. I was settling into my new office at Veltrix Optics when my old cell phone started buzzing with missed calls from Nexora Labs. 7 calls in the first hour, all from different numbers. James Morrison knocked on my door around 9 a.m., grinning like he'd won the lottery. 3 contracts, he said, holding up a folder. Westell, Microsystems, and Tech Solutions Plus all signed with us this morning. Combined value, $12 million annually. "That's wonderful," I replied, though I felt a small pang of something, not quite guilt, but recognition of what this meant for my former colleagues. "Tyler Brennan called our main line 4 times in the last hour," James continued. "Apparently their shipping system crashed this morning, and none of their vendor portals are responding." I nodded thoughtfully. The quarterly authentication update probably triggered. All vendor passwords reset simultaneously on the first Monday of every quarter. It's built into the security protocol. And Tyler doesn't know this? Tyler doesn't know most things about operations. He assumed it was all automated. I pulled up the new client files on my computer. Have our logistics team schedule installation meetings with the new accounts. I'll want to do site surveys to optimize their delivery protocols. What I didn't mention was that those vendor passwords weren't just randomly generated. I'd designed the system myself, with access codes that followed a pattern only I knew. Tyler could eventually figure it out, but it would take time his clients didn't have. My personal phone rang again. This time, the caller ID showed Robert Brennan, Tyler's father, and the actual owner of Nexora Labs. Mr. Brennan? I answered formally. Helen? What the hell is going on? Robert's voice was strained. Tyler tells me you left Friday, and now our whole system is down. 3 of our biggest clients called this morning threatening to cancel their contracts. I'm sorry to hear you're having difficulties, Mr. Brennan. Don't give me the corporate response, Helen. We've known each other for 20 years. Tyler said you left to pursue other opportunities, but this timing can't be coincidental. I chose my words carefully. Tyler felt that the company needed younger leadership, someone who could better adapt to technological advances. I respected his decision. There was a long pause. Tyler made this decision without consulting me. I assumed he had your approval. He didn't. Robert's voice turned cold. Helen, I need you to come back. Whatever Tyler offered you elsewhere, I'll double it. I appreciate the offer, Mr. Brennan, but I've already committed to Veltrix Optics. My employment contract began this morning. Then at least help us transition. Consult for us temporarily. Help Bradley understand the systems. I looked out my new office window at the bustling Veltrix warehouse floor. I'd be happy to discuss consulting arrangements. My standard rate is $500 per hour, with a minimum 40-hour weekly commitment. Robert was quiet for a moment, probably doing the math. $20,000 per week to fix problems that wouldn't exist if his son hadn't fired me. We'll pay it, he said finally. I'll need the consulting agreement in writing, along with Tyler's written acknowledgement that my expertise is required. And Mr. Brennan, I'll also need a formal apology from Tyler for his comments about women my age being unable to keep up with technology. Another pause. I'll talk to Tyler. Take your time, I said pleasantly, though I should mention that your vendor authentication lockout resets every 7 days. If the passwords aren't updated by next Monday, you'll lose access to your primary shipping partners entirely. I hung up and returned to my new client files, feeling a satisfaction I hadn't experienced in years. Tuesday brought escalation. Tyler himself called my personal phone at 7 a.m., waking me from a peaceful sleep in my new routine. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to his message while making coffee. Helen, this is Tyler Brennan. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. We need to talk about the operational transition immediately. Our systems are experiencing technical difficulties, and Bradley needs your assistance to resolve some authentication issues. No apology. No acknowledgement that he'd fired me 4 days earlier with condescending remarks about my age and capabilities. Just demands for my help now that his strategic personnel changes were backfiring. I deleted the message and drove to Veltrix Optics, where my new team was already implementing efficiency improvements for our 3 new major clients. Around 10 a.m., James knocked on my door again, this time looking concerned. Robert Brennan is in our lobby, he said. He's asking to speak with you personally. Says it's urgent. Send him up, I replied, saving my work. This should be interesting. Robert Brennan walked into my office looking like he'd aged 5 years in 4 days. His usually perfect silver hair was disheveled, and his expensive suit was wrinkled. He sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk. Helen, I owe you an apology, he began. Tyler told me he'd discussed your departure with you weeks ago, that it was a mutual decision based on your desire to explore new opportunities. That's not exactly how it happened, I said quietly. I know that now. I had a very enlightening conversation with Janine yesterday. She told me what Tyler actually said to you. Robert's jaw tightened. His comments about your age and capabilities were completely inappropriate and absolutely not reflective of this company's values. I appreciate you saying that, Mr. Brennan. Helen, I built Nexora Labs from nothing, and you helped me grow it into what it became. Firing you wasn't just wrong, it was business suicide. Tyler is young and inexperienced. He made a terrible mistake. I leaned back in my chair, studying the man who'd given me my first real opportunity in logistics management. What exactly are you asking me, Mr. Brennan? Come back. Full restoration of your position, 20% salary increase, and Tyler will report to you instead of the other way around. The offer was tempting. But I thought about Tyler's smug expression when he'd dismissed me, his casual assumption that women my age were obsolete. That's very generous, I said. But I'm quite happy here at Veltrix Optics. They value experience and institutional knowledge. Robert's shoulders sagged. Then at least help us salvage what we can. Our vendor relationships are destroyed. The shipping software is completely locked out. Bradley doesn't even know where to begin. I told you my consulting rate yesterday. $500 per hour, 40 hours minimum, I remember. He pulled out a contract from his briefcase. I had our legal team draft this last night. I reviewed the document carefully. It was comprehensive and expensive. But there was something missing. Where's Tyler's written apology? I asked. Robert winced. He's resistant to putting anything in writing. Legal liability concerns. Then I'm afraid we don't have a consulting agreement. I slid the contract back across my desk. Mr. Brennan, Tyler didn't just fire me inappropriately. He did it with discrimination and disrespect. If he wants my help fixing his mistakes, he needs to acknowledge them publicly. Helen, please. The company is hemorrhaging money every day this continues. Then Tyler better start learning about vendor authentication protocols, I said, standing up. I have a client meeting to prepare for. Wednesday afternoon brought the moment I'd been quietly anticipating. Tyler Brennan walked into the Veltrix Optics lobby, his usual arrogance replaced by barely concealed desperation. James Morrison called my office to warn me he was coming up. Send him in, I said, arranging the files on my desk. And James? Leave my door open. Tyler entered my office like a man walking to his execution. His confident swagger was gone, replaced by the nervous energy of someone whose carefully constructed world was collapsing. Helen, he said, attempting his old authoritative tone. We need to discuss this situation. Please, sit down, I replied pleasantly, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. How can Veltrix Optics help you today? His face flushed at the deliberate formality. Cut the corporate speak, Helen. You know exactly why I'm here. I'm afraid I don't. Could you be more specific? Tyler's composure cracked slightly. The vendor systems, the client contracts, the shipping protocols. You designed all of it, and now it's falling apart. We both know this isn't coincidental. You're absolutely right, I said, leaning forward. I did design those systems. Over 20 years of work, actually. And you fired me because women my age can't keep up with technology. That's not... He started to protest. Let me finish, I interrupted, my voice remaining calm but firm. You dismissed me without consultation, without transition planning, and with discriminatory language. You assumed that innovation meant throwing away institutional knowledge. Tyler shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Look, maybe I was hasty. Maybe I didn't fully appreciate your contributions. Maybe, I smiled. Tyler, in 4 days you've lost 3 major clients worth $12 million annually. Your shipping system is locked out until next Monday. Your new operations manager is having panic attacks trying to understand processes that took me 2 decades to develop. So help us, he said desperately. Name your price. I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment. My price is simple. A written apology acknowledging your discriminatory comments and your mistake in terminating me. Posted publicly to the company website and sent to every vendor and client. His eyes widened. That's career suicide. Perhaps, I replied, but it's also accountability. Thursday morning brought the collapse I'd been orchestrating since Monday. James Morrison burst into my office with barely contained excitement, holding his phone and a stack of reports. "Helen, you need to see this," he said, spreading documents across my desk. Nixora Labs just lost their primary shipping contract with Continental Express. Their delivery network is completely shut down. I reviewed the termination notice with professional interest. Continental Express had been Nixora's backbone shipping partner for 15 years, a relationship I'd personally negotiated and maintained. Without them, Nixora couldn't fulfill any client orders. "There's more," James continued. "Bradley Brown submitted his resignation this morning. Effective immediately, he sent a company-wide email saying the position was beyond his capabilities." "That's unfortunate," I replied, though I wasn't surprised. Bradley was a smart young man who'd realized he was being set up to fail in a position that required decades of experience. My phone rang, displaying Robert Brennan's number again. "Helen, please." Robert's voice was hoarse when I answered. "Tyler will issue the apology. Written, public, whatever you want. We just need you to help us salvage what's left." "It's too late for that, Mr. Brennan," I said gently. "Continental Express terminated your shipping agreement this morning. Without them, you can't fulfill orders for any remaining clients." There was a long silence. "How did you know about Continental?" "Because Patricia Holmes at Westell Distribution is on their board of directors. When she told them about Tyler's management style and discriminatory practices, they decided they didn't want to work with companies that treated experienced professionals that way." "This will destroy us," Robert whispered. "Yes," I agreed. "It probably will. Tyler made a choice last Friday. Now he gets to live with the consequences." I hung up and returned to my work, helping Veltrix Optics integrate 3 major new clients into their expanding network. Outside my office window, I could see delivery trucks bearing our company logo, efficiently executing the improved protocols I'd designed. The future looked very bright indeed, and I was finally working for people who understood that experience and wisdom were assets, not liabilities. Looking back on those pivotal days, I realized that Tyler's attempt to discard me had actually freed me to flourish in ways I never imagined possible. And his downfall served as a powerful reminder that respect and experience should never be undervalued.